Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Now, today on the table in front of us is not a new knife. This has been around a while, but it's new to me, and I want to share it with you. This is the Spyderco Paysan. Now, this is an expensive knife. If you can find one, they are about $560. I did not pay that much. No, I actually traded my Sebenza 31 for this. I had the Sebenza 31 for a few months. It was a wonderful knife, but in the end, it wasn't my knife. And recently, I met somebody who had this and discovered that, in fact, this is my knife. So we did a trade, and I am beyond happy. This is a Peter Rossetti design. I've had the Snafu 2.0 made by CKF. I had that for a while and that moved on, but this one fits me perfectly. So let's take a look at what you get for your excessive amount of money if you were to buy one. It is integral. Now, it does come with a standard Spyderco clip. You guys know me, I immediately swapped it out for an MXG deep carry clip, and I actually very much like the way that this short clip matches the stonewashing on the full titanium build. I think it looks really nice, so that's what I've done. As I said, it is integral, so there is no backspacer, no line, no divide. You get a very thick chunk of S90V that has all been knocked down. The only place there is a sharp edge on this knife is right where you want it, and that is on the blade. Deployment is by traditional Spidey hole, which means you can Spidey flick it. You can thumb flick it. Whoops. You can, man, you know what? It's been a while since I made a video. You can roll it out. Any of those work beautifully well. The blade is a really nice, high-polish stonewash, which is great, except I have learned that it's an absolute fingerprint magnet, and that's okay. I love this knife. Considerably more than I loved the Sebenza 31. Now, hold on. The Sebenza 31 is a spectacular everyday knife. It is beautiful. But I collect knives that appeal to me for a lot of reasons. And while if I had to pick one knife just to carry on a regular basis, and I had a 31, I'd be totally happy with that. It didn't really settle into my collection very well. Whereas the Paysan here does, because it's interesting. And it's sort of complicated. There's a lot of reasons why I like it better. But in the end, that's the truth of it. So let's go ahead and get some size comparisons out of the way. Here it is against the Bug Out, and as you can see, the Paysan is considerably bigger than the Bug Out because it is a big knife. Here it is against the Rat Model 1. Again, the Rat Model 1 is a fairly full-size knife. The Paysan is about a quarter of an inch longer, and you get considerably more cutting surface on the blade. Oh, that's dirty. This thing, for all of my fancy knives, I gotta tell you, this Rat Model 1 gets a ton of use. Finally, let's compare it against another Spyderco. Here it is against an equally dirty knife. The PM2. So I love this knife. I do. This one's mine. As you can see, I've got an aftermarket backspacer on it, deep carry clip. In fact, it is the same deep carry clip. This is a great knife, but a lot of you have PM2s, or at least have held them, and so this will help, I think, with understanding how big the Paysan really is. It's a big knife. Lots of blade, good size handle. The handle to blade ratio on this knife is astonishing. Now, part of it is because you get this really tall chunk of S90V, but the other part is that the handle itself is very thin. Now, it's not so thin that you cannot get a good grip on it. I absolutely do, and I have got, as you know, massive hands. This is a very comfortable knife, and it rides the pocket really, really well because of that design. Now, I know that there were some QC issues with some of these when they originally dropped. This one, as far as I can tell, has none of them. The grind is even all the way up and down the blade on both sides. The action is completely smooth. The blade is dead center. Lockup is fine. Detent is very, very good. It might be a little soft, but it's kind of hard to tell because the blade weighs so much. But deployment is never fail. And that, to me, says the detent is done just right. All of the little fine details of Rosenti design have been brought forward in this. The one thing that is sort of funny to me, now, as I said, it did come with a standard Spyderco spoon clip, which was just terrible, is that it has a lanyard hole. Can you see it? There it is. That if you put a lanyard through it, the blade is just guaranteed to touch it. I don't understand that myself, but if you used thin lanyard cord and pulled it very tight right there, you'd probably be fine. I don't lanyard, so I'm never going to know, but it was something I thought I should point out. I've had this for a week or so now, and it has successfully done every job that I have put to it. It's an excellent cutter. Now, it's not a razor blade. They could have come down to a slightly thinner grind, but it has a fairly tall final bevel, which means it does come down to a very nice edge. It's not thick where you need it to be thin. It's very slicey. But, you know, they could have done it a little thinner, I suppose. I love this sort of Wharncliffe blade, or I suppose that's a sheep's foot, isn't it? That sheep's foot blade. This is, I think one of the reasons that people complained about this so much is because it is so expensive and they were expecting something magical, when in truth what you get for your $560 is just an exceptionally good knife. But at that price, it is competing with very high-end knives. Maybe people don't want to spend that kind of money on a Spyderco. I get that, but having had the CKF Rosentis and some other sort of high-end knives, I can tell you that this thing is on par with those without question. So again, I think a big part of the problem people had with this knife was the little spider. I have no complaints. I think it's a marvelous addition to the collection, and I am exceptionally glad to have one. Let's go ahead and weigh it out, and then we'll do the actual measurements. This knife weighs 4.3 ounces. Now for an integral, that's not so bad because this is one piece of titanium. And for your 4.3 ounces, you get 1, 2, 3 3/4 of cutting on 4 inches of S90V. The grip area from just behind the rise right there is 1, 2, 3, 4 full inches, and then it rolls up to 4 3/4 inches. This is a nice long knife. In fact, the overall knife is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 3/4 inches long. This is a big one. It doesn't look big. It doesn't. It doesn't carry big or feel big, but it's a big knife. You get your money out of this, that is for sure. Let's go ahead and get the blade stock out of the way, just because now I'm curious. All right. Back here at its thickest point, you are at 3.91 millimeters. I'm not sure if that's going to show up. There it is, 3.91 millimeters, which is 16 hundredths of an inch. And then the handle itself at its thickest spot is 0.46 of an inch. This is a massive blade on a relatively small handle that, as I've said a couple of times, carries so well. And with the addition of a really pretty deep carry matching clip, it just vanishes into the pocket. I love this knife. I love this knife. I did not love the Snafu 2.0 by CKF. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. But as soon as I picked this thing up, I fell for it. So now we're to that spot where you're wondering if I recommend one of these. Maybe. And what I mean by that is this. If you are looking for an exceptionally well-made high-end knife from a reliable company, the Spyderco Paysan is probably a good way to go. If you're not looking to spend $500+ on a knife, this is absolutely not the knife for you. I get that. But I think it does show what Spyderco can do if they really want to. Now, I know, again, that there are lots of videos out there discussing the sort of failings of this knife. People had tons of small complaints that I think really sort of stood out. And my feeling is this: if this had said CKF or literally any other brand on it besides Spyderco, I think people would have been absolutely thrilled with it out of the box. I think when you are a big company and you produce an exceptionally expensive knife, the expectations that people have, well, I think they're pretty high. But having had a lot of really expensive knives, I can tell you that this thing is really very well done. And that's about it. This is the Spyderco Paysan. It is a new addition to the collection. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day.